Hello everyone, I decided to make a Battleship Guesser in C#, and I also decided to make it so that you can save and load games. So here is a text file that has the last game saved, and it saves after each guess. Here is a demonstration. I would not like to load a game. C2, yes, that was a hit. B2, no. And it will guess in the 4 directions until it hits, and then it will continue in that direction. So B2 was no. Then D2 was yes, and the ship was sunk. And then we're guessing E2, which is no. And then it goes back to checkerboard guessing. J1, no. F9, no. A2, yes. A1, yes. No. Yes. And then when it hits a wall, it changes the direction to go the other way. Yes, and that was sunk. A4, no. Goes back to checkerboard guessing. H9, no. H7, yes. H8, no. G7, no. H6, yes. No. Yes. No. Yes. No. Yes. And the ship was sunk. Then F7, that was a no. I0, no. B3, no. J9, no. J7, no. J5, no. H1, yes. G1, yes. No. And no. And no. And yes. And it was sunk. And then we go to I8. No. I2. No. F3. No. G2. No. G6. No. G8. No. J3. No. E4. No. D3. No. We need A through C6. So B5, no. I4, no. I6, no. E0, no. E8, no. C6, yes. C5, no. D6, no. E6, yes. And no, and yes. And the ship was sunk. And that is all 5. And it says you guessed all of the ships. Now, let me go through the logic of this. So first we have the cell class, which basically has an indicator, which is a H for hit, a tilde for miss, and a space for empty. And there is get indicator and set indicator. And then we have the board, which has save board, load board, which are used for saving and loading the board file. And then get cells, create board, it creates a new empty board, return cells, display the board to the user, check hit, that checks if it was a hit or not and sets the indicator accordingly. And then here's our guess class. It has variables to keep track of the point that it is currently at, the directions to guess, and the direction that it is currently guessing, as well as a set of guessed points so that it doesn't guess the same points twice. And then we have our getters and setters for the point. We have load guess coordinates, which is used at the beginning of a new guess and a new hit initially. And then we have display coordinates, which shows the coordinates to the user. And then we have the checkerboard guess, which guesses in that checkerboard sort of pattern until it hits, and then it switches to guess direction, which tries to guess the direction of the ship, and then once the ship's direction is guessed, it will continue guessing in that direction until it hits a wall or there is a miss and the ship is still not sunk. Then it will change the direction to the opposite way. And then we also have our validation, check direction, and check guess, which check to see if the next point that it's going to guess is valid. And then increment direction changes, moves the X or Y depending on the direction to the next point. And then we have the main program, and it allows you to save and load the board. And then while the ship count the sunk count is less than 5, we first do a checkerboard guess to find a hit, and then once there is a hit, we try to guess the direction, and once we have 2 points that are hits, we continue in the direction that it was guessing, and then if of course it hits the barrier, a barrier or an already guessed point, it will change direction, and then once it is sunk, it will go back to the checkerboard guess. And then once all of the ships are sunk, it says, you guessed all of the ships. Thank you.